Hello! You get glitter stitches, and I get glitter stitches, and our projects get glitter stitches. Okay, I'm your knitting fairy godmother, and today I have a question for Ask Your Knitting Fairy Godmother. If you want more tips and tricks of how I knit, you can sign up for my newsletter and get glitter stitches delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up on my website, www.knittingfairygodmother.com, under the knit letter, because I only talk about knitting. So today our question is about how to knit with wire. And wire is considered an unconventional material in the knitting world. So I'm sharing my 5 tips for knitting with wire. The first most important thing is safety, because wire is a metal product and we're used to using wool and fiber, so safety has to be front of mind. Don't cut yourself. Be careful that you're working in a safe place, and make sure that you don't have sharp edges, that you're protecting your ends. So sometimes when I knit with wire, I have an example here. I'll just tape around the edge of my wire until I'm done, and then I can take the tape off for safety. The next thing we need to talk about, number 2, is tools. And it's important that we use the right tools for the right job. So the tools that you need when you're knitting with wire are a pair of tin snips or a wire snip to cut the wire. This is like the scissors that you would use when you're knitting. And you're also going to need a pair of needle nose pliers to weave in your ends. This turns into something like your tapestry needle when you're finished. And sometimes you can find a combo tool that has both the cutter and the needle nose, and that would work just fine. The next thing that my next tip is that you would have an easier time to keep the wire on the spool and unspool about 12 inches or a foot of wire as you use it. And as you work with the wire and manipulate it, you'll discover how much slack you need, but this is not the type of thing where we unroll a lot of wire and then try to knit with it. It's easier to keep the spool close to the work. The fourth tip is that we need to use metal needles. So these are big needles, and it's needles that I don't mind getting the finish scratched, because the wire sliding along the aluminum will cause abrasion, and a bamboo needle is too soft and you will gouge your wooden needles. So another important tip is to use metal needles. Number 5, drum roll please, is the easiest cast on is the backward loop cast on, and we use that cast on for a couple different reasons. One, it's a twisting cast on, so it's the easiest to manipulate wire, and 2, it starts from the cut end and works towards the spool. You don't have to fuss with how long to make your tail, and it's easier to weave in that shorter end. So those are my 5 tips. Make sure that you are safe. Use the right tools, a needle snip and a needle nose pliers. Keep the wire on the spool. Number 4, use metal needles that you don't care about the finish. And number 5, the backward loop cast on is the easiest cast on to use. I have a show and share project. This is a beaded wire votive holder that I made. I added beads onto the wire, and then I followed the 5 steps and made a little sleeve. So it's a candle. I can put it over my votive holder, and then the beads light up. And it's one way that I have knitting around me all the time, and I love knitting with unconventional materials. So I hope that helps. Post your unconventional knits, because we'd love to see them, and we'll talk next week.